Dino Soerel was called de Neus, the nose, by some and the ghost by others, because he always managed to disappear when the police came close. He was one of the most feared men in the Dutch underworld. His name was whispered in bars, clubs, and prisons across the Netherlands. He had power, money, and an army of loyal men. Dino was born in Amsterdam in 1960. He grew up in a working-class neighborhood where street fights, hustling, and gambling were part of daily life. He wasn't born into crime, but the streets shaped him. From a young age, he learned that to survive, you had to be tougher than the next man. As a teenager, Dino was already known for his temper and strength. He started fighting in local clubs, earning a reputation as someone you didn't mess with. He was not afraid of blood. Violence became his language. And soon, everyone knew his name. It didn't take long for Dino to move from small fights to organized jobs. He began working with people who dealt in stolen goods, cars, and drugs. His sharp mind and fearless attitude made him stand out. Older gangsters noticed him and invited him into bigger circles. In the 1980s, Dino came under the influence of Klaas Bruinsma, one of the biggest drug lords in the Netherlands. Bruinsma ran a vast empire of cocaine and hashish. Dino became his trusted enforcer, the man who handled dirty work quietly. Their relationship opened the door to real power. Dino didn't just work for Bruinsma. He learned from him. He studied how money moved, how shipments were hidden, and how corrupt police officers could be bought. He saw how fear could control people more than bullets ever could. Slowly, he started building his own network. By the late 1980s, Dino was deep in the drug trade. He helped manage shipments coming through the ports of Rotterdam and Antwerp. Huge containers of fruit and coffee hid cocaine worth millions. The profits were unimaginable, and Dino was at the center of it all. After Klaas Bruinsma was murdered in 1991, the Dutch underworld changed forever. Power was up for grabs. Dino saw the opportunity. He wasn't going to be a follower anymore. He started moving quietly, taking control of territories once ruled by others. Dino's empire grew quickly. He formed alliances with other crime figures, people like John Miramet, Sam Klepper, and Willem Holleder. They worked together on drug shipments, protection rackets, and laundering money through nightclubs and fake companies. Dino loved Amsterdam's nightlife. Clubs, luxury cars, and women surrounded him. But behind the music and lights, he was conducting business, using bars and clubs to meet clients, launder money, and recruit new men into his network. The night was his office. With power came enemies. Many who crossed Dino or betrayed him disappeared mysteriously. Drive-by shootings, bombings, and assassinations filled the streets of Amsterdam in the late 1990s. It was known as the Macro War's early phase, and Dino was one of its architects. Dino was close to two other infamous gangsters, Sam Klepper and John Miramet. Together, they were called de 10 van Teflon, the Teflon 10, meaning no charges ever stuck to them. They ruled the underworld with iron fists, but their friendship was built on fear, not trust. In organized crime, loyalty never lasts. When Miramet was attacked and Klepper was shot dead, Dino knew he could be next. He started moving carefully, changing cars, phones, and locations constantly. His enemies were everywhere, even among his old friends. By the 2000s, Dino became extremely cautious. He rarely met anyone directly. Every deal went through multiple people. He used coded language, burned phones, and encrypted messages. He didn't sleep in the same place twice. He had learned that the closer people got, the more dangerous they became. Dino's name appeared again and again during the Dutch Passage trials, the biggest murder investigation in Netherlands history. Prosecutors linked him to multiple assassinations, including those of other criminals and potential witnesses. But evidence was hard to find. Dino always worked through layers of people. Willem Holleder, the man behind the Heineken kidnapping, was one of Dino's most famous associates. They once shared money and enemies. But like most alliances in the underworld, theirs too began to crack. Distrust grew between them, and both started fearing betrayal. By 2009, the Dutch police had gathered years of evidence. They tracked Dino's calls, followed his movements, and connected him to contract killings. But they still couldn't catch him. He had vanished, just as he always did. For years, Dino was on the run. Some said he lived in Spain, others believed he hid in South America. He used fake passports, disguises, and cash-only lifestyles. He stayed away from phones, family, and friends. He truly became a ghost in the criminal world. In 2010, after years of hiding, Dino was finally arrested in Amsterdam. The police cornered him in a luxury apartment. He didn't resist. He knew it was over. His capture sent shockwaves across Europe. One of the biggest untouchables had finally been caught. Dino's trial was massive. The courtroom was packed with journalists, security officers, and former gang members. Prosecutors accused him of ordering multiple assassinations and leading a deadly criminal organization. Dino sat calmly, denying everything. Throughout the trial, Dino maintained his innocence. He said he was being framed by unreliable witnesses, criminals trying to save themselves. "They need someone to blame," he said, "and they chose me." His calmness made him both respected and feared. Key witnesses began to speak, men who once worked for him. They told stories of secret meetings, cash payments, and coded orders for murder. Some even described the sound of his voice when he gave commands. Dino listened without emotion. After years of investigation and testimony, the court found Dino Soerel guilty of several murders and of leading a criminal organization. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. The ghost was finally behind bars, but many said even prison couldn't silence his influence. In prison, Dino stayed quiet but powerful. Other inmates respected him. Guards treated him cautiously. He still had people outside handling his business. Even from a cell, his name carried weight. Even after his arrest, people who once worked with Dino still feared mentioning his name. Many knew that his connections ran deep, across borders, across police departments, even in politics. His legend lived on. Millions of euros were never recovered. Authorities believed Dino hid his fortune in offshore accounts and secret investments. Rumors said some of his old partners still managed those funds for him. Dino didn't need to shout or threaten. His presence alone was enough. One look from him could silence a room. People obeyed because they knew what happened to those who didn't. To outsiders, Dino sometimes appeared as a calm businessman. He wore fine suits, smiled politely, and spoke softly. But behind that charm was a man who could order a killing with a whisper. His life was a balance of darkness and disguise. The Dutch media couldn't stop writing about him. They called him the last godfather of Holland. Every newspaper followed his story, from his rise to his capture. His name became a symbol of the Dutch underworld itself. Even after his arrest, the criminal networks he helped build continued. Younger men took over, using his methods. The same fear, silence, and secret communication. Dino's legacy shaped the next generation of criminals. Little is known about Dino's personal life, but those close to him said he kept relationships distant. He loved control, even in love. No one ever truly knew him. His family never spoke publicly. They lived quietly, refusing interviews. Some say they feared retaliation. Others believed they were simply ashamed of what he had become. Dino could be charming at breakfast, deadly by noon, and generous by evening. He could be a friend and an enemy in the same hour. That unpredictability was his weapon. Dino's life showed one truth: power gained through fear never lasts. Every empire built on blood eventually turns against its creator. He rose high, but he fell hard. After his arrest, many of his closest partners were also captured or killed. The empire crumbled. The Dutch underworld entered a new era, more chaotic, more violent, and without true leadership. Even years later, his story is told in police academies and documentaries. His name remains in files, in whispers, and in fear. The shadow of Dino Soerel still covers parts of Amsterdam's criminal world. Those who met him say he was intelligent, cold, and disciplined. He never wasted words. Everything he did was calculated. That's why he survived longer than most. He gained power, wealth, and control, but lost peace, trust, and freedom. The same fear that protected him also isolated him. In the end, even he couldn't escape the cage he built for himself. The killings, betrayals, and wars he started still echo today. Many young criminals grew up idolizing him, not realizing that his story ended in chains. Now serving life in prison, Dino Soerel lives quietly. But outside, his name still moves like smoke. Unseen, but never gone. His story is a warning. No matter how high you rise in the underworld, the end is always the same. Alone, trapped, and forgotten.